In this session, we will talk about laboratory metadata and the customization involved. In the HIS, the laboratory module will operate for all lab services, all investigations, requisitions, and lab orders. These lab orders will be routed to the lab module through the billing module, which means the user needs to pay for those tests and then the queue will move to lab for performing those tests. The user will be able to view the work list for individual subdivisions of the general lab. The individual subdivisions may be hematology, biochemistry, serology, cytology, urine examinations, and many more. The test reports will be made available for all tests investigation for the patient, as the user will enter the results for these investigations, and the same can be handed over to the patients in form of prints. Now, the lab module will involve the following customization. First, type in your URL and log in by your username and password. As also was explained before, each concept needs to be created in the concept dictionary. Each test, each investigation that is performed in lab must exist as a concept in the concept dictionary. To add a new concept, click on Dictionary in the navigation menu and then click on Add New Concept on the left side of the screen. Now the following screen appears. Here, the fully specified name must be the name of the test. Say hemoglobin is one of the tests, so fully specified name is hemoglobin. A synonym can be added here if there be one. Say HB is very frequently used in place of hemoglobin, so HB can be added as a synonym in the concept dictionary. Then class and data type as mandatory, and then the concept will be saved in the dictionary. Now, importantly to note here is the combinations of class and data type that will be used to create the lab metadata. The first combination is test and numeric. Say I take an example of hemoglobin. When we see this test, it carries class and data type as test and numeric. This is because the result that a hemoglobin test will carry is numeric in nature. So therefore, this will always carry class as test and data type as numeric. Now when I click on edit, there is an option to put in critical high, normal low, normal high, critical low values for this test. These are the reference ranges that can be put for a particular test, and this will only be available if the data type of the test is numeric. So therefore, these results which are put in the concept dictionary at the time of making a concept can be further on related medically, and therefore it is important to put in a reference range and unit to a particular test. So therefore, all the tests that carry a numeric value as result must carry the data type as numeric. Now the second combination is test and coded. There are few tests that will carry results like positive, negative, or absent presence. Now they in the concept dictionary will be having class as test and data type as coded. Say I take an example of HIV. Now this has class test and data type coded. It is coded because then it carries answers to itself. Positive, negative are mapped as answers to this concept. So when I click on edit, I see the class is test and data type is coded. Positive, negative or present, absent as the case may be will have to be added to this particular test by clicking on add. Now it finds the concept in the dictionary when I type in the name of the concept, and then by clicking on the name of the concept, this is mapped under it. In case this has to be removed, click on remove. So then the answer will be removed from the answer box, and then the concept must be saved in the database. So therefore all the concepts which carry double answers, say positive, negative or present absent or any other value, must carry test and coded as class and data type. The next option is test and text. For this I will take the example of FNAC. Because FNAC carries text as a result of the test, so therefore it carries the data type as text. So class is test and data type is text. So to conclude, all the tests which have text as a result must carry class as text and data type as text. One more combination very importantly that exists in the lab is labset and NA. Now for all the tests that are always performed in a group are compiled into one by using the data type and class as labset and NA. Say I take example of lipid panel. Now lipid panel is not just one test, it's a combination of many tests under it. So for all those tests which are done in the lab as one entity are then answers to the big concept which has class labset. So if you see lipid panel and when I go on edit, now this has class labset and then click on is set. Check the box in front of is set. Then the set members will appear in this box and a new set member can be added by clicking on add. Now say a test like very low density lipoprotein needs to be added here. So then this will be searched in the dictionary by clicking on add, and by clicking on top of the concept this will be added into the concept dictionary. And if one test has to be removed, click on the name of the test and then click on remove. The test will be removed from the dictionary. So labset is the class when a group of tests are performed as one entity. Another example of the same is liver function test. Liver function test will always be performed, they are a combination of direct bilirubin, total bilirubin, SGOT, SGPT and many more. So all those tests that fall under LFT will be mapped as labset. So when I click on edit, and then there is another test that needs to be added here, say indirect bilirubin. Then by clicking on add and then adding a new concept, we'll add that particular concept under the labset liver function test, and then save must be clicked to save this concept in the dictionary. So to summarize, there are 4 sets of class and data type that must be used: test and numeric in case the result is numeric in nature, test and coded in case the output result is in form of codes, positive, negative or present, absent, test and text in case the result is text in nature, and labset for all those tests which are done in combination. It's a compilation of many particular set of tests which are done as one entity. So for all those tests, labset is the class that must be used. So this is how the metadata is created in the dictionary, and then we need to manage the lab module. So for managing the lab module, click on administration. After clicking on administration, under the lab there is an option of managing the department. So click on manage department. Once we click on manage department, click on add new department on the left hand side of the screen. Now there opens a screen wherein you need to write the name of the department. Say General Laboratory 1, and then a description to it. Say biochemistry tests. Then a role needs to be defined. And then all those investigations that come under General Laboratory must be mapped here. These are not exactly the name of investigation, but the major department to which they fall. Say biochemistry is one of the major sub-lab. So then biochemistry must be mapped here. Or cytology. So all those sub-labs that fall under the general lab must be mapped under the column of investigations. Now, if there are any confidential tests, then they should be added in the column of confidential tests, and then this lab must be saved. So then the name of the lab starts to appear in this list of departments. Now let us see the functioning of the lab module. On the interface of the lab module, there are options like queue, work list, edit result, print work list, patient report, functional status, and add confidential test. Let us see them one by one. Click on queue, select an investigation, and click on get patients. What you see here is the queue of the patients that have already undergone billing and for whom the performing of tests is pending. So then these patients start to appear in the queue of the day. The lab technician accepts the patient in the lab by clicking on accept button. A sample ID for the test is generated and then save is clicked. For all those tests that could be performed in the lab, click on accept and then click on save button once the sample ID is generated. Now there is an option to reschedule a particular test. If for any reason the test cannot be performed in the lab technician can reschedule the test for another date and click on reschedule. So then this test disappears from the queue of the day and will start to appear on the date on which it is rescheduled. So therefore the patient doesn't have to go to billing or doctor to get this test ordered again. This can be done at the lab level only by clicking on reschedule. The next option is of work list. The work list is a place where the lab administrator or technician will enter the lab results. As done before, select an investigation, but here a consolidated list can also be selected, and then click on get work list. Then by clicking on enter results, the results for these tests which have been performed in the lab can be entered. Then click on save to save the results that have just been entered. So we enter a result for a few tests by clicking on enter results and then entering the result for that test. By clicking on cancel, the entering result screen disappears. There is an option to reorder a test. This works similar way as reschedule, but this is done after a test has been performed. So click on reorder and put a patient for a reorder date and click on reorder. The same test has been reordered for another date. Then there is an option to edit result. The results that have once been entered can be edited by clicking on edit result. This also works in a similar way by clicking on investigation and then putting in name or identifier of the patient, and then the results that have once been entered could be edited. The next option is print work list. Here also select the investigation. An option to select a consolidated list is also mentioned, and then click on get work list. This is the work list of today. The lab technician can take a printout of the work list by clicking on print work list, and the same can also be exported into Excel by clicking on export work list. For records purpose, this can be printed out and filed up, and this summarizes all the tests that have been done on that particular date by the lab technician. The next option here is patient report. The patient's name or identifier can be typed here, and all those tests for which the value has been entered can be printed out, and a printed receipt can then be handed over to the patient. Another important functionality here is of functional status. Click on functional status, and then a list appears on the screen. Now, for any reason, if the test cannot be performed in the lab, the same can be disabled by the lab technician by clicking on the disable option in front of the test. This is an administrative right which has been given to a lab technician or a lab administrator, by which he or she can deactivate a test from lab, and hence its appearance in the billing. The test which has been disabled here by checking in front of the test will then not appear in billing, and therefore billing for this test will not be performed, and hence the queue will not appear in lab. So the whole process does not happen in case a test is disabled by the billing administrator or lab administrator, whosoever is given this functional status right. And the last option here is to add confidential test orders. In case there are any confidential tests to be performed for a patient, then patient can be searched in the system, and for the same patient a few tests can be ordered which are marked as confidential while managing the lab department. In case there are no tests mapped under confidential tab, then those will not appear here. So here we can, there are few tests which can be present under the confidential tests and which act separately in the system. So for the lab administrator or for the lab technician, queue, work list and patient report are the important tabs of use. This is all about the lab metadata and customization. Hope this session was useful for all of you. Thank you.